tympanum actually helps in receiving the sound signals to the frogs. The completely digested food will be absorbed by the microvilli or the villi present in the intestine. If the frog uses the skin for respiration, it is called as cutaneous respiration. And when on land, if the frog uses the lungs for respiration, it is called as pulmonary respiration. Hemoglobin is the pigment that gives the red color to the blood of the frog. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to another session on chapter 7, that is structural organization in animals. I'm Dr. Divya, biology faculty, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysore, Temple of Excellence. So in the previous session, we had studied about the anatomy and morphology of cockroach. We studied that the cockroach body is entirely covered by an exoskeleton and hence they are put under the phylum Arthropoda. And we also studied the internal organs of the cockroach, that is the circulatory system, the alimentary canal or the digestive system, the reproductive system of the male and the female cockroach, and so on. In today's session, we shall again deal with the morphology and anatomy, but in this case, we will be studying about the frog. So, in frog, we all see frogs, especially during the rainy season, wherever there is evergreen forest areas or wherever there are water bodies being present. So therefore, the habitat of a frog is always to be present in the water. And not just that, frogs, they also live on the land. And we know that the frogs, they are called as amphibians. Why? Because they live both on the land as well as in the water. Only during the breeding period, they move to the water in order to lay the eggs. And almost a portion of the life cycle of the frog, that is the tadpole stage of the frog, is in the water itself. So therefore, they are called as the amphibians of the animal kingdom. Begin with, we shall study a bit about the habitat, the body structure or the morphology of how a frog looks. So frogs, they are scientifically called as Rana tigrina. And if you can see here, I have underlined them. So if you should know that in biology, whenever you're writing a scientific name, you need to underline it separately, or if it is in a typed format, you can use the font, that is italicize it, or italics font can be used. So that is very, very important for a biology student to know. So the frog, it is commonly called as the Rana tigrina. They live both in land as well as in fresh water, and that is why they are called as amphibians, and they are placed under the class Amphibia and the phylum Chordata. So why Chordata? Because they have a chordate, they have a vertebral column or a vertebral system. That is why they have been placed under the Chordata. And these frogs, they are usually cold-blooded, or in other terms, they are called as poikilotherms. That is, they cannot regulate the body temperature. So that is why they are called as poikilotherms, or they are cold-blooded. And they have the ability to camouflage. That is, camouflage is nothing but like how the surroundings, they have the ability to change the color according to the surroundings, or it's not changing the color, but the skin of the frog is made in such a way that it blends with the environment in which, or the habitat in which it is living. Like I can give you the example of the army uniform, the Indian army uniform. You know that it is designed in such a way that it blends with the forest, right? So that it is made up of different shades of green and brown shades, because so that it camouflages or it blends in the forest. So that the same way here, the frog skin is also made in such a way that some are light brown, green mixed, yellow mixed, and in such a way that it blends to the habitat in which it is living. So therefore, for us, whenever we are walking in a litter or somewhere, like a place where there is lots of leaves, grasses and all growing, it is very difficult for us to see a frog, right? Why? Because it is blending with the environment, it is camouflage. So that is the ability of the frog. So the frog camouflages itself with the environment or with the habitat it is living in. And the frog undergoes two types of estivation. One is the summer sleep, which is called as the estivation, and the other one is the winter sleep, which is called as the hibernation. So frogs, they remain inactive or they remain inert during the summer season, and that particular process is called as estivation. Why? Because in summer season most of the ponds, rivers and all, they are dry and the environment is dry. So therefore the frogs, they do not lay their egg, they remain in a inactive state. So such condition is called as the estivation, that is the summer sleep. And also in the winter also the frogs are less active, that is they are inactive, so that is called as the hibernation. So in winters also the frogs will hibernate. So therefore the frogs remain active only during the rainy season. So you might have seen summers usually, so those who are living nearby the evergreen forest such as Coorg or the hilly regions such as Kerala and all, you might have observed like that is during the summer season we don't hear the croaking sound of the frog. But when the rainy season starts, the frogs, anywhere you go you find frogs hopping here and there, and you find the croaking sounds of the frog, right? Why is it? Because the frogs, they remain inactive during the summer and the winter, but they are only active during the rainy season. So that summer sleep is called as estivation and the winter sleep is called as hibernation. So next, moving on to the morphology of frog. So I just told you about the habitat and the general characteristics of a frog. So talking about the morphology, I said I shall start with the skin of the frog. So whenever you see a frog, you know it is always slimy and it is shiny and it is always moist, right? So the skin of the frog is usually smooth, it is slippery. And why is it slippery? Because it is always moist. Why is it moist? Because of the presence of mucus. So the skin of frog always secretes a slimy mucus which keeps the skin always moist. So that is one peculiar characteristics of the frog skin. And the skin is therefore always maintained in a moist condition. And the color of the frog, that is on the dorsal side. So dorsal side means it is the upper side, and ventral side means it is the ventral side, it is the lower side. So when you look at the upper side or the dorsal side of the frog, the body color or the color of the skin is generally olive green with dark and irregular spots. So just imagine a frog, how it will look. So as you can see here, the dorsal side, it is usually olive green in color and they have spots. So spots can be yellow spots or brown spots, depends on the species of the frog, and they have spots on their body. So this is how the skin actually looks of a frog, with dark irregular spots. And on the ventral side, that is the lower side of the frog, the skin is uniformly pale yellow. So the common frog that we see everywhere during the rainy season will have a pale yellow color. But again here, depending on the species, the frog skin also varies. So ventral side skin is usually pale when compared to the dorsal side of the frog. So this is how the color of the skin of the frog actually looks like. So the frog usually, they never drink water. Why? Because the water enters into the frog body through the skin itself. So the frog absorbs the water through the skin. It will not drink water like how we do. In spite of it living most of its lifespan in the water, in spite of that, the frogs will not drink the water, but the water directly will be absorbed by the skin. So this is one of the peculiar characteristic of the skin of the frog. So next, moving on to the body parts of the frog. So I have finished with the skin. So next we'll talk about the body parts of the frog. So the body of the frog is again divided into the head, the trunk, the eye, the forelimb and the hind limb. So we shall see each of the function of the different body parts. So starting with the head of the frog. So the head of the frog bears the mouth and also it bears the eyes. So when we look at the eyes are usually bulged. The frog eyes, it looks like as if it has a golf ball inside the eyes, like it is bulged. So the eyes are usually bulged and the eyes are covered by a nictitating membrane. So nictitating membrane acts like a third eye. So how we have eyelids, right? The frogs have an extra eyelid that protects the eye of the frog when it is in water. So it actually acts like a layer. So it covers the eyes of the frog, this particular nictitating membrane, so that when the frog is in water, the eyes will not get affected. It will not have to close the eyes. When we are inside water, our eye usually we close the eyes, right? So but in this case, since the frog almost it is there in the water, it is living in the water, so whenever it enters into the water, this nictitating membrane, which acts as like a third eyelid, it actually covers the eyes of the frog, and but in spite of that the frog is able to see, so that but it covers the eyes of the frog, therefore protecting the eye of the frog with the from the water. So it protects the eyes of the frog from the water. So that is the function of the nictitating membrane. And on either side of the eyes, you can see a particular structure called as the tympanum. So this frog doesn't have ears like other animals or we human beings. It doesn't have a ear-like structure, but instead it has on either sides of the eye, it has a membranous structure called as the tympanum, which is nothing but the ear. So this tympanum actually helps in receiving the sound signals to the frogs. This is the tympanum that is actually present in the frog, and it is present on both the sides of the eyes, on either sides of the eyes. And next, moving on to the limbs of the frog. So the frogs have a forelimb and a hind limb. So that limbs which are present at the front, the first two limbs are the forelimbs, and those which are present at the back are the hind limbs. So the forelimbs are little bit less muscular when compared to the hind limbs. So they are less muscular and they have 4 digits or 4 fingers. They have, as you can see, there are 4 fingers being present. So that is why it is called as the forelimb. So 4 means before, it is present at the front. So front limbs. And next, after the forelimbs is present the hind limbs. So the hind limbs have 5 digits. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 digits. So hind limbs have 5 digits and the forelimbs have 4 digits. So hind limbs, they are in 5 digits and they are larger and muscular. So as you can see, the forelimbs are smaller and it is less muscular when compared to the hind limbs. The hind limbs are larger and it is more muscular and it has 5 digits. And the feet, if you see, they are usually webbed in between the digits. If you see a frog's feet, say for example, this is the digits of the frog. In between, there are web-like structures. Why? Because it will help the frog to move easily through the water. So they have webbed digits that help in swimming. So in between the fingers, there are webs being present which help the frog to swim. So that is the webbed digits are being present. So digits are nothing but the finger-like projections that are there in the frog. And the forelimbs and the hind limbs usually help the frog in swimming, in walking, in leaping and also in burrowing. So they help the frogs in order to swim easily in the water, in order to leap or jump and also to burrow under the mud. So for all these, they help the frogs, that is the forelimb and the hind limb. So next, moving on to the male and the female frog. So how can we differentiate between a male and a female frog? So the male and the female frog are different. That is, sexual dimorphism exists. Means you can easily distinguish between the male frog and the female frog because they exhibit sexual dimorphism. There is variation in the morphology when it comes to the reproductive structures. So male frogs can be distinguished from the or can be differentiated, or you can say that this is a male frog and this is a female frog. When you look at a male frog, you can see that there is presence of sound producing vocal sacs. So somewhere here in the neck region, they will have vocal sacs that are present. So these vocal sacs help the frog. So during the rainy season, you can hear the frogs croaking loudly, right? Why do you think they croak? They croak in order to attract the female. So the croaking is actually produced by the vocal cords that are present in the male. So males, in order to mate with the female, they have to attract the female. So how do they attract? Like birds and all, they will spread their wings, right? So peacock, for example, male peacocks, they have beautiful wings, right? Feathers or tail feathers they have, which they spread spread and dance in order to attract the female. Just like that, the frogs, they usually produce sounds through their vocal cords. So they have vocal sacs that are being present, and also they have copulatory pad on the first digit of the forelimb. So on the first digit of the forelimbs, they have a pad like structure which is called as the copulatory pad, and which is actually helps in the mating, but all these are absent in the female frog. So therefore, if a frog has a copulatory pad on the first digit of its forelimb, and also if it has a vocal sac present in the neck region, then you can say this is a male frog. And if all these are absent, then it is a female frog. So that is how we can distinguish between a male and a female frog. So next, moving on to the anatomy. So anatomy is nothing but the study of the internal structure, studying the morphology of the internal structure. So externally, when you look at a frog, you can say the eyes are there, the mouth is there, the forelimb is there, web is there, all that, it is understood. But inside the frog, what are there? All those studies are nothing but anatomical studies. So when it comes to anatomy, the body cavity of frog, it actually possesses or holds a large number of organs, or different organ systems are present, such as the digestive system, wherein the food digestion and all that takes place, the circulatory system for the movement of blood and all that, then the respiratory system for the exchange of gases, then the nervous system, the excretory, and the reproductive system. So all these different structures are found in the body cavity of a frog. So we shall study each of these structures one by one. So in this particular session, we shall study about the digestive system and the circulatory system. But whereas in the coming session, we shall deal with the respiratory, the nervous, the excretory, and the reproductive system. So let us start studying each of these one by one. So first, to begin with the digestive system. So the digestive system of frog is divided into the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. So in any of the organism or any of the eukaryotic organism or animals or human beings, if the digestion of the food has to take place, then the various digestive glands should work together, right? So therefore, digestive glands also are a part of the digestive system. So the alimentary canal. So alimentary canal in frog, it is very, very short because frogs are carnivorous. Therefore, the length of the intestine is reduced. So those organisms which feed on the other animals, they are the carnivores, they have a small intestine. So therefore, the alimentary canal in a frog is very, very short when compared to other organisms, because the frogs are carnivorous and therefore the length of the intestine is reduced. And the digestive glands are also a part of the digestive system. So we shall study about these one by one. So first, talking about the alimentary canal. So the alimentary canal of a frog, it consists mainly of the digestive system, that is the intestine and all that. So to begin with, we shall study about the mouth. So beginning from the mouth until the rectum, it consists of the alimentary canal. If you remember, with cockroach, we had studied about the alimentary canal. There also the alimentary canal begins from the mouth up till the anal region, right? Here also it is the same way. So we shall start with the mouth of the frog. So the mouth actually opens into the buccal cavity. So buccal cavity is where all the chewing, the biting and all that takes place. So that is the buccal cavity. So mouth, inside the mouth is present the buccal cavity, and the buccal cavity leads to the esophagus. So as you can see, the mouth of the frog, if it is present somewhere here, the buccal cavity, this buccal cavity will lead to the esophagus. Esophagus is the tube-like tube-like structure that actually carries the food particles into the stomach and the intestine. So esophagus through the pharynx, through the pharynx and the esophagus, the food will enter and it will reach to the stomach. So stomach, it continues directly to the intestine. So as you can see, the stomach, then through to the intestine. So all these heart and the other parts are the respiratory system, the circulatory system, and all that is present in this particular diagram. So we shall concentrate only about the alimentary canal in this particular slide, because we are only talking about the alimentary canal. So as I told you, the mouth, it opens into a buccal cavity, and in the buccal cavity, the chewing and the partial digestion of the food and all that takes place, and through the buccal cavity, the food particles enters into the esophagus, and then it opens, this esophagus opens into a short tube. The esophagus is a short tube and it opens into a stomach, and this stomach actually continues to a intestine, and this intestine finally ends with the rectum and it opens outside to the cloaca, through which the excretory product comes out. So you can see the rectum, and then comes the cloacal aperture through which the excretory products actually comes out. So this is the simple alimentary canal of a frog. And next comes the liver. So liver, I told you the digestive glands also are a part of the alimentary canal. So here the liver, it secretes the bile that is stored in the gallbladder, and bile is also one of the important component to break down the food particles. So here there is the presence of the liver. So in the liver, it secretes glands called as the bile glands, and bile glands are stored usually in the gallbladder. So in this particular region, that is the gallbladder, the bile glands are usually stored. And then the next comes one more gland secreting organ, that is the pancreas. So pancreas, it actually produces a digestive gland called as the pancreatic juice, and this pancreatic juice contains abundant amount of digestive enzymes, and these digestive enzymes actually helps in the digestion, proper digestion of the food, and therefore some of the food matter will be utilized by the body and the waste products will be eliminated out, and the food is captured by the bilobed tongue. You have seen how the frogs, they catch the insect and all that. They just stick out their tongue, and the tongue is so sticky that the insect will stick to the tongue, and then it will withdraw the tongue back into the mouth, and then it will start devouring the insect. So that is how the food is captured by the bilobed tongue. After the food is captured by the bilobed tongue, what happens? The food will enter into the mouth of the cockroach. There a partial digestion would have taken place. That partially digested food will enter into the esophagus, and through the esophagus it will enter into the stomach, then it will enter. So once it enters into the stomach, or once it is passing through the esophagus, there also again the process of digestion should take place, and that is a time when various glands will be secreted. Say for example, the liver will start secreting the bile that is stored in the gallbladder, and the pancreas will start secreting the digestive enzymes which is nothing but the pancreatic juice, and this pancreatic juice produces the digestive enzymes which helps in the complete digestion of the food inside the stomach. And the digestion of the food actually takes place by the action of hydrochloric acid and also various gastric juices that are secreted from the walls of the stomach. So in the stomach, again, for further digestion to take place, there is certain acids such as the hydrochloric acid and also the gastric juices. All these will function together in the complete digestion of the food. After the food is completely digested, a partially digested food, which is called as chyme, is passed from the stomach to the intestine, which is nothing but the duodenum. It is passed to the small intestine. So the small intestine is called as the duodenum, and the undigested food, whatever is there, it will move into the rectum and it will pass through the cloaca. So here partial digestion would have taken place because of the functions of various glands, such as the stomach will release HCl and also it will release certain gastric juices. So all these will digest the food. So once the food is digested, the completely digested food will be utilized by the different parts of the body. whereas the undigested food, which is called as chyme, so the undigested food is called as chyme. So the chyme will enter into the small intestine, which is called as the duodenum, and then it will enter into the undigested solid food, will again enter into the rectum, and from the rectum it will move out, or it will come out of the frog's body through the cloacal aperture. Aperture is nothing but the opening. It will come out through the opening called as the cloaca. So that is how the undigested food will come out. So this is about the alimentary canal of a frog. And what will happen to the digested food? So the digested food is absorbed by numerous finger-like folds that are present in the inner wall of the intestine, which is called as the villi and the microvilli. So the villi are finger-like projections, and they are also presence of villi and microvilli, which are nothing but finger-like projections. Where they are present? They are present in the intestine. Somewhere inside the intestine they will be present. So the completely digested food will be absorbed by these villi-like structures or the microvilli, and the undigested food will pass on to the intestine again, and then it will enter into the rectum, and then it will move out to the through the cloaca, or it will be excreted through the cloaca. So this is about the digestive system or the alimentary canal of a frog. So bile, the major function. So I told you the duodenum actually receives bile. So once the food enters into the stomach and it is entering into the intestine, the pancreas will start producing the pancreatic juice, and the liver will start producing the bile. So what are their functions? So actually what happens, once the duodenum, it will receive the bile from the gallbladder. Why from the gallbladder? Because I told you the liver, it will produce the bile and it will store the bile in the gallbladder. So whatever bile is being produced by the liver, that is the liver, it will be stored by the gallbladder. So the bile will be secreted from the gallbladder, and the duodenum, whatever bile is being secreted, it will be received by the duodenum. So what is the duodenum? It is the small intestine, right? So it will be received by the small intestine, and also it will receive the pancreatic juices from the pancreas through a common bile duct. So there is a bile duct which connects between gallbladder and the pancreas, which forms a connectivity to the duodenum. So through the bile duct, it actually receives the pancreatic juice from the pancreas and the bile from the gallbladder, which is produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. It will receive them. So therefore, what are their function? The bile will help in the emulsification or the digestion of the fat, and the pancreatic juice will digest the carbohydrates and the proteins. Why proteins major? Because these are carnivores. They feed on lot of protein content. So other insects and all will have lot of protein content in them, right? So once the frog eats these insects, the carbohydrate and the protein should be digested by the frog. So how the digestion will take place? Because of the secretion of the pancreatic juices by the pancreas. So therefore, the final digestion is the one that takes place in the intestine. And after the final digestion takes place in the intestine, the completely digested food will be absorbed by the microvilli or the villi present in the intestine, and the undigested food will pass into the rectum, and it will come out of the frog as excretory material or nitrogenous waste through the cloaca or the cloacal aperture. So this is the alimentary functioning of the frog, that is the digestive system or the alimentary canal of the frog. So next, moving on to the respiratory system. So in frog, the respiratory system is very, very easy, or it is very simple. The frogs, they usually respire on land as well as also in water. So therefore, they have a different respiratory system when they are on the land, and a different respiratory system when they are on the water. So in water, the skin acts as an aquatic respiratory system. So the frogs, they can also breathe through the skin. So even earthworms can also breathe through the skin. Just like that, the frogs, whenever they are in the aquatic phase of their life cycle, or whenever they are in water, the skin acts as an aquatic respiratory organ. So that is what it means is that the frogs, they have cutaneous respiration. So cutaneous means cuticle, or cutaneous means something related to the skin. So therefore they respire through the skin. So respiration by the frogs through the skin is called as cutaneous respiration. So the dissolved oxygen in the water is exchanged into the frog's body and outside through the skin. And when they are on the land, the buccal cavity that is present, that is the mouth cavity. So buccal cavity, the skin, and also the lungs, all these act as the respiratory organ. So skin is the major respiratory organ in a frog when it is in water, and when it is living on land, the skin, the lungs, the buccal cavity, all these also act as a respiratory organ in the case of frog. So as you can see here, they have a slimy skin for the exchange of gases, and they have, so the slimy skin for exchange of gases usually when the frog is in aquatic habitat or when it is in water. And when it is on land, even the skin, they respire through skin also, through lungs also, and also through mouth cavity, that is nothing but the buccal cavity. So next, moving on to the respiration in land. I told you when frogs are on or dwelling in land, or when they are staying on the land, the respiration is mainly by the lungs, through skin, through buccal cavity, all that. But major respiration is through the lungs. So when the frog uses their lungs for respiration, it is called as pulmonary respiration. So if the frog uses the skin for respiration, it is called as cutaneous respiration. And when on land, if the frog uses the lungs for respiration, it is called as pulmonary respiration. So the lungs are usually present in pairs. So as you can see, they have a pair of lungs being present. So the lungs are usually present in pairs, means two lungs are present. So they are usually elongated and they are present in pairs, and they are usually sac-like structures which are pink in color, and they are present in the upper body, that is the dorsal side of the frog, and in the trunk region called as the thorax. So in the thorax region of the frog, the lungs are being present on the dorsal side. They are elongated, they are present in pairs, they are sac-like structures, they are pink in color. So this is a structure of the lungs. And if the frogs respire through the buccal cavity, first what happens, the air enters through the nostrils of the frog. So as you can see, through the nostril, the air will enter into the frog and it will move into the buccal cavity and then into the lungs. So it will enter through the nostril, it will move to the mouth. It will move to the mouth, that is the buccal cavity, and then it will enter into the lungs. So this is how the air enters into a frog. And during estivation, estivation is summer sleep, and during hibernation, that is winter sleep. So when the frogs are inactive during the summer and during the winter, the gaseous exchange usually takes place through the skin. So they use their skin for gaseous exchange because they will be completely inactive. They will be in a sleeping state. So that is why during that process, the skin actually acts like a respiratory organ. So this is about the respiratory system of a frog. So next, moving on to the circulatory system. So the frog has a muscular structure that is actually situated on the dorsal side or the upper part of the body cavity of a frog. Why? Because almost all the organs of a frog are situated inside the body cavity of the frog. Right here, the heart, that is the circulatory system, is usually situated on the upper side or the dorsal surface of the body cavity of a frog, and the heart is made up of 3 chambers, that is 2 atrial chamber and 1 ventricle chamber are present, and these chambers are covered by a membrane called as the pericardium. So therefore, the whole heart of the frog is covered by a membrane called as the pericardium, and the heart of the frog, it is situated on the dorsal side or the upper side of the body cavity, and the heart is mainly made up of 3 chambers, that is, it is made up of 2 atrial chambers or atria and 1 ventricle chamber, and it consists of a triangular structure called as sinus, venosus, which joins the right atrium. So towards the right atrium, there is one more structure that connects towards the right atrium. It is called as the sinus venosus. So this particular structure is the connectivity between the right atrium to that of the sinus venosus. And the circulatory system, that is the heart, it receives the blood through the major veins called the vena cava. So the heart, it is a closed type of circulatory system. Therefore, there are veins and all that being present, and the heart actually receives blood through the major veins called as the vena cava, and the ventricle actually opens into a sac-like structure called as conus arteriosus on the ventral side of the heart. So I told you the frog has 3 chambers, 2 atria and 1 ventricle, right? So when it has 2 atria, one is on the left side and the other one is the right, the left atria and the right atria. So the right atria is actually connected to a structure called as triangular structure called as the sinus venosus, and this sinus venosus actually receives blood through major veins called as the vena cava, whereas the ventricle of the heart is actually, it opens into a sac-like structure called as the conus arteriosus, which is present on the ventral side of the heart. So these are the veins which are the blood vessels which actually help in the movement of the blood. And next, moving on to the movement of the blood. So the blood from the heart, it is carried to all the different parts of the frog, be it the digestive system or the other organs, to different organs, the blood should be carried. So it is carried by the presence of the arteries or the arterial system. So the arteries or the arterial systems are the ones which carry the blood from the heart or transports the blood from the heart to different parts of the frog's body. So the veins that are there, it will collect the blood from different parts of the body and it will send back to the heart. This particular process is called as the venous system. So first what happens, the blood should actually be pumped back again into the heart. So how it is done? It is the veins that will collect the blood from different parts of the body and pump it back into the heart. So this particular process or system of connection of veins between the different body parts of a frog and to that of the heart is called as the venous system. So there are special venous connections between the liver and the intestine as well. So that venous connection is called as the hepatic portal system. So the frog has a well-developed venous system which connects the heart to different parts of the body. Therefore, the blood from different parts of the body can be pumped back into the heart. So there is one more connective system wherein there is a special connection, a vein that connects the heart or connects between the liver and the intestine, and that is called as the hepatic portal system. So that is also kind of a circulatory system, right? So how glands are being secreted, that also should enter into the intestine. So that particular connectivity between the liver and the intestine is called as the hepatic portal system. And the venous connection between the kidney and the lower parts is called as the renal portal system. So the connectivity between the kidney to the rectum or to the cloacal aperture, whatever, that is called as the renal portal system. So therefore, the circulatory system of a frog is made up of the arterial system, it is made up of the venous system, the hepatic portal system, and it is made up of the renal portal system. So this is about the circulatory. So next, moving on to the blood, which is a part of the circulatory system of a frog. So the frog's blood consists of plasma and different cells such as the white blood cells, the red blood cells, and all that. So plasma, it is a colorless fluid that is present in the frog's blood. So the blood cells that are present in the frog are the red blood cells, which are also called as the erythrocytes. It has the white blood cells, which are also called as the leukocytes, and they also have the platelets. So platelets are very important for clotting of the blood. So therefore, the platelet cells are also present in the frog. So the component of the blood in a frog are the different types of blood cells that are present in a frog are the red blood cells or the erythrocytes, the white blood cells or the leukocytes, and the platelets. Apart from that, the frog, the blood is also made up of plasma, which is a colorless fluid. So talking about the red blood cells, they are usually nucleated, that is they have a nucleus and they have a large amount of red colored pigment because of the presence of the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is the pigment that gives the red color to the blood of the frog. Therefore, the red blood cells contain hemoglobin, which makes the blood color red. And it also contains lymph. There is one more component present in the frog which is called as the lymph, that is different from that of the blood. Why? Because the lymph, it actually lacks a few proteins and RBC. There is no protein and RBC present in the lymph. Therefore, a lymph is not something like the blood, but it is something different from that of the blood. So the major function of the blood is to carry the nutrients, to carry the gases, and also to water to the respective sites during the process of circulation. And the circulation of blood is usually through the pumping action of the muscular heart. So I told you there are a venous system being present, right? So that venous system actually carries the blood through and fro from the heart to the other parts of the body and from the other parts of the body back to the heart. So this is how the blood circulation usually takes place. So this is about the blood, which is a part of the circulatory system of the frog. So in this particular session, we studied about the morphology of this frog, wherein we studied the nature of the skin of a frog, and we studied how to distinguish between the different body parts of the frog. We also discussed and we also found out how to distinguish between the male and the female frog, and we also studied a part of the anatomy of a frog, wherein we studied the anatomy related to the alimentary canal, the respiratory system, and the circulatory system. And we came to know that the heart of the frog is only made up of 3 chambers, that is 2 atria and 1 ventricle, which is a peculiar feature of the frog. So I hope you understood this session very well. We shall meet in the coming session. Thank you.